The key turned in the lock with a click that echoed like a gunshot in Joshua's chest. The front door creaking open to the scent of pine needles and cinnamon that hit him like a wave of forgotten summers. He dropped his duffel bag in the hallway, the thud swallowed by the silence of the empty house. His parents still at the church potluck down the street. But as he pushed open the door to his old bedroom, the world tilted. There, on the wall where his boyhood posters of superheroes once hung, was a meticulously arranged shrine. Framed photos of him arm in arm with faceless girlfriends from fabricated college stories, ticket stubs from dates that never happened, and a laminated newspaper clipping of his high school from King Glory, all lit by a string of twinkling Christmas lights like some twisted nativity scene. Joshua's breath caught, his hand flying to his mouth as if to stifle a scream that had been building for a decade. The lies he'd spun to keep this small Ohio town from swallowing him whole now staring back at him in glossy, accusing permanence. "What the hell have you done, Mom?" he whispered to the empty room, but the words dissolved into the chill air, because deep down, he knew. This wasn't just decoration. It was a cage, rebuilt while he was away, chasing a life in New York where he could finally breathe. Joshua Harper had always known Christmas in Elmwood was a performance. The kind where everyone donned their Sunday best and pretended the frost on the windows was magic instead of just another layer of isolation. But this year, at 28, dragging himself back from the relentless hum of Manhattan subways and late-night gigs at indie theaters, he wasn't prepared for the encore. His flight had been delayed by a blizzard that blanketed the Midwest in white, giving him too much time to stew over the email from his mother. "Can't wait to see you, sweetie. We've got the guest room all set up. Your old space is special now. Special." The word had gnawed at him like a bad review, but he'd brushed it off, too buried in rehearsals for his off-Broadway role as a brooding anti-hero in some angsty drama about lost boys. Now, standing in the doorway of what used to be his sanctuary, Joshua felt the floorboards creak under his boots like they were judging him. The shrine dominated the far wall, a corkboard the size of a door, pinned with relics of the straight life he'd invented to survive high school. There was the photo from senior prom, him in a rented tux, arms slung around Emily Carter, the debate team captain who'd agreed to the charade for a laugh, her smile wide but her eyes screaming this is bullshit. Below it, a collage of couple selfies he'd photoshopped last summer during a weak moment, faces blurred just enough to pass muster when his dad asked about that nice girl from accounting. And at the center, like a holy relic, a faded Polaroid of him and his best buds from the football team, all grins and backslaps. The one shot where he'd faked it so hard his jaw still ached from the smile. He stepped inside, the door clicking shut behind him like a trap springing. The air smelled of mothballs and vanilla candles, the kind his mom burned to ward off the winter blues. Joshua's fingers trembled as he reached out, tracing the edge of a laminated card. Joshua's straight-A future. Law school bound. It was from his guidance counselor, a relic from the college apps where he'd lied about his dreams of theater school, claiming pre-law to keep the peace. "Jesus," he muttered, sinking onto the edge of the twin bed that still sagged in the middle from nights spent staring at the ceiling, whispering secrets to the shadows. Downstairs, the grandfather clock chimed 7, pulling him back. His parents would be home soon, arms laden with Tupperware from the potluck, faces flushed from mulled wine and small talk about whose kid had landed the best job. Joshua had prepped his script on the drive from the airport. "Yeah, Dad, the play's going great. Mom, that girl Sarah? We're casual. Casual." The word tasted like ash now. He grabbed his phone, thumb hovering over Kenneth's name in his contacts. Kenny. The one name he hadn't dared utter aloud in this house since graduation night, 7 years ago, when they'd stolen a kiss behind the bleachers and sworn it was the last. Kenneth Ellis. God, just thinking it sent a shiver down Joshua's spine. The good kind, the kind that had kept him sane in the concrete jungle. They'd been inseparable in high school. Joshua the golden boy quarterback with the easy laugh. Kenneth the quiet artist sketching murals in the back of art class, his dark curls always falling into eyes the color of storm clouds. In Elmwood, where the evangelical church on Main Street preached fire and brimstone on Sundays, their friendship was the only safe harbor. But it had bloomed into something more during junior year, stolen moments in the woods behind the mill, hands fumbling in the dark, hearts racing against the fear of discovery. Joshua hadn't seen him since the going-away party his parents threw before he left for NYU. "Our boy's off to conquer the world," they'd toasted, oblivious to the way Kenneth's gaze lingered too long, or how Joshua's hand brushed his under the table, a silent "I'll come back for you." But he hadn't. New York swallowed him. Auditions, hookups in dimly lit bars, the thrill of anonymity where he could be Josh the actor, not Joshua the straight son. Kenneth's texts had tapered off after the first year. "Miss you, man." Elmwood's the same dot until they stopped altogether. Joshua told himself it was for the best. Better a ghost than a scandal. A car door slammed outside, jolting him. Headlights sliced through the curtains, casting long shadows across the shrine. Joshua bolted upright, heart hammering, and yanked the corkboard's corner loose, stuffing it into his duffel like contraband. No time to dismantle the whole thing. Footsteps crunched on the gravel path, voices muffled by the wind. His mom's laugh, high and brittle. His dad's gruff, "Easy there, Ellen." Joshua smoothed his sweater. A cashmere one from a prop closet, too urban for Elmwood, and plastered on the grin that had fooled them for years. "Josh, honey, we're home." Ellen Harper's voice floated up the stairs, laced with that forced cheer she wielded like a weapon against silence. Joshua descended, each step a countdown, emerging into the foyer where pine garlands dripped from the banister and a 12-foot tree loomed in the living room, ornaments glinting like accusations. "There he is, our prodigal son." Tom Harper enveloped him in a bare hug, the scent of aftershave and pipe tobacco overwhelming. Tom was all broad shoulders and calloused hands from 30 years at the auto plant, a man who believed in God, guns, and the Browns. "Look at you, city slicker. That sweater cost more than my weekly grocery, I bet." Joshua chuckled, the sound hollow. Guilty. Flights were a nightmare, storm of the century. He hugged his mom next, her frail arms wrapping tight, her perfume a floral assault. Ellen was the architect of the shrine. He knew it without asking. Her way of preserving memories since the lupus diagnosis 2 years back, when she'd started nesting like the world was ending. The potluck hall hit the kitchen island. Casseroles, pies, a bottle of Boone's Farm for festive spirits. They settled into the ritual, plates clattering, stories exchanged. Tom regaled with tales of Pastor Mike's sermon on family values. Ellen cooed over Joshua's adventures in the big city. "And that's Sarah? When do we get to meet her?" she asked, eyes sparkling over her eggnog. Joshua's fork paused mid-air, tuna casserole turning to lead in his mouth. "Sarah's great, busy with work. Maybe next visit." The lie slipped out smooth as ever, but tonight it stuck, a burr under his skin. He glanced at the window, snow swirling like secrets unsaid, and wondered if Kenneth still lived on Oak Street, if his parents' porch light still burned for a son who'd faded into rumor. Dinner blurred into dessert, the clock ticking toward 9. "Go unpack, sweetie," Ellen said, waving him off with a kiss to the cheek. "Your room's just how you left it, full of promise." Promise. Joshua's stomach twisted as he climbed the stairs, the weight of the duffel heavier now. Back in the room, he wedged the door shut and collapsed against it, sliding to the floor. The shrine mocked him from across the space, Christmas lights pulsing like a heartbeat he couldn't silence. He pulled out his phone again, the screen glowing in the dimness. "Hey, Kenny. Back in town for the holidays. Coffee?" His thumb hovered, then pressed send before cowardice could intervene. The message whooshed into the void, and Joshua buried his face in his hands, the first sob escaping like a prayer he didn't believe in anymore. Outside, the snow fell thicker, burying Elmwood under its white lie, and somewhere in the night, a phone buzzed in response. The buzz of his phone at 2 a.m. yanked Joshua from a fitful sleep, the screen's glow cutting through the darkness like a lifeline. "Coffee sounds good. How about the diner? 10 a.m.? Simple words, but they landed like a thunderclap, stirring memories Joshua had boxed away in the recesses of his mind. He typed back a quick "see you there," then lay staring at the ceiling, the shrine's lights now dimmed to a faint twinkle, casting erratic shadows that danced like ghosts of what-ifs. Morning came too soon, the sun a pale disk struggling through the clouds, turning the snow-covered lawns into a monochrome postcard of Elmwood. Joshua dressed in layers, jeans, a flannel shirt under the cashmere, boots scuffed from city sidewalks, aiming for casual local to blend in. He slipped out before his parents stirred, leaving a note on the fridge. Errands in town. Back by lunch. Love, Jay. The Ford pickup his dad kept for him rumbled to life in the driveway, tires crunching over fresh powder as he navigated the familiar grid of streets. Past the red brick high school where he'd thrown his last touchdown, the library with its creaky steps where he'd first borrowed the Joy Luck Club and hidden it under his mattress, the church steeple piercing the sky like a judgmental finger. The Elmwood Diner squatted on the edge of Main Street, a relic from the 50s with chrome stools and a jukebox that still played Patsy Cline on vinyl. Joshua parked out front, the lot dotted with plows and pickups, and paused at the door, heart jackhammering. What if Kenneth had changed? What if those 7 years had carved him into someone unrecognizable, resentment hardening the edges of that once soft smile? He pushed inside, the bell jingling like an alarm, the air thick with bacon grease and percolating coffee. There, in the corner booth by the window, sat Kenneth Ellis, unchanged and utterly transformed. Taller, maybe, his frame filled out with the lean muscle of someone who worked with his hands, dark curls tamed into a neat fade, but those eyes, storm gray and piercing, locking onto Joshua's with an intensity that stole his breath. He wore a wool coat over a Henley, sleeves rolled to show forearms inked with delicate line work. Swallows in flight, a nod to the tattoos Joshua had only dreamed of getting. Josh! Kenneth stood, the name a low rumble, and for a beat, they just stared, the diner's hum fading to white noise. Then Kenneth pulled him into a hug, brief but fierce, the kind that said I've waited without uttering a word. Joshua inhaled the scent of cedar and soap, his body remembering before his brain could catch up. They slid into the booth, menus sticky between them, the waitress, a graying woman named Flo who'd served them milkshakes post-practice, winking as she poured refills. Boys back together? Elmwood's miracle this Christmas. Joshua forced a laugh, ordering pancakes to match Kenneth's eggs. Anything to steady his hands. So, Kenneth started, stirring sugar into his coffee with deliberate circles. New York treating you right? Heard you're some hotshot actor now. His tone was light, but there was an undercurrent, a probe. Joshua shrugged, poking at his stack. Hotshot? Try starving artist with a side of rejection. Landed a gig last month. Small, but it's something. He met Kenneth's gaze, the words tumbling out. What about you? Still painting those murals? Or did you escape this place? Kenneth's smile was wry, fingers tracing the rim of his mug. Stayed mostly. Took over the hardware store when Dad retired. Keeps the lights on. Paint on weekends, when the muse hits. He paused, eyes dropping to the table. Missed you, though. A lot. The admission hung there, raw and unadorned, and Joshua felt his throat tighten. I missed you too. Every damn day. The words escaped before he could cage them, and suddenly the booth felt too small, the air charged. He glanced around. Flo chatting with truckers at the counter, an old couple sharing the paper, no one watching. Still, old habits died hard. They talked then, the floodgates cracking. Kenneth's coming out to his sister last year, the quiet relief of her hug. Joshua's first pride parade in the village, rainbow flags whipping in the wind like freedom. Laughter bubbled up over shared stories. The time they'd snuck into the mill and carved their initials into a beam, hearts entwined, or sobered into silences heavy with unspoken regrets. Why didn't you call? Kenneth asked finally, voice soft as the snow piling outside. After the first year, I waited. Joshua's fork stilled, syrup pooling untouched. I was scared of dragging you into my mess, of this town finding out. My parents, they built this whole narrative. Straight son, picket fence future. He swallowed, the shrine flashing in his mind. And then I got lost in the city. It's easy to hide there, you know? To be someone else. Kenneth reached across, his hand covering Joshua's, thumb brushing knuckles in a gesture so tender it ached. "Hiding's no life, Josh. Not for us." Their fingers laced, hidden by the menu's edge, and for the first time in years, Joshua felt seen. Not the actor, not the lie, but the boy who'd loved fiercely and fled. Flo dropped the check with a knowing grin, and they bundled out into the cold, breath fogging in crystalline puffs. The street was alive now. Shoppers hustling with bags from the 5 and dime, carols piping from speakers strung across lampposts. Kenneth's truck was parked next to Joshua's, a battered Chevy with paint-splattered bumper stickers. "Coexist and love wins." "Walk with me," Kenneth asked, nodding toward the park at the end of the block. They strolled in companionable quiet, snow crunching underfoot, the bare branches of oaks arching overhead like skeletal guardians. The park was Elmwood's heart, a frozen pond where kids once skated, benches etched with lovers' initials. They stopped at the gazebo, strings of white lights twinkling against the gray sky, and Kenneth turned to him, hands in pockets. "I never stopped loving you, you know, even when it hurt." Joshua's chest cracked open, the cold air rushing in. He stepped closer, cupping Kenneth's face, thumbs tracing the stubble along his jaw. "I love you too, always have." Their lips met then, slow and searching, the kiss tasting of coffee and confession, the world narrowing to the warmth of Kenneth's mouth, the faint scrape of his beard. It was reckless, anyone could drive by, but in that moment, under the indifferent snow, it felt like rebellion, like home. They broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed, laughter bubbling through the tears pricking Joshua's eyes. "Come over tonight?" Kenneth murmured. "My place. No interruptions." Joshua nodded, sealing it with another kiss, softer this time. "Yeah, tonight." He drove home in a daze, the radio crooning "I'll be home for Christmas," the irony biting deep. His parents were in the kitchen when he slipped in, Ellen chopping celery for soup, Tom nursing a beer by the TV tuned to a bowl game. "Good run into town?" Tom asked, not looking up. "Yeah, Dad. Real good." Joshua's voice was steady, but his reflection in the hall mirror showed flushed cheeks, swollen lips, a map of truths yet to unfold. Lunch stretched into afternoon, the house filling with the sizzle of ham and the drone of holiday specials. Ellen chattered about the neighbors, old Mrs. Grady's arthritis, the Johnsons' new grandbaby, while Joshua nodded along, his mind a whirlwind of Kenneth's touch, the promise of night. But as they cleared plates, his mom paused, hand on his arm. "Everything all right, honey? You seem distant." He forced a smile, the old mask slipping into place. "Just jet lag, Mom. Promise." But her eyes lingered, sharp as ever, and Joshua wondered if she saw the cracks. By evening, the storm had eased, leaving Elmwood blanketed in hush. Dinner was a blur. Grace said over roast, Tom's jokes landing flat. Joshua excused himself early, claiming a headache, and retreated to his room. The shrine waited, accusatory in the lamplight. He traced the photos again, fingers lingering on the fake smiles, then pulled out his phone. "On my way. Address?" Kenneth's reply pinged back. "You remember. 147 Oak." Doors unlocked. Oak Street was a 5-minute drive, past cookie-cutter colonials with wreaths on doors and lights twinkling in sync. Kenneth's place was the bungalow at the end, porch sagging but strung with blue LEDs, a single candle flickering in the window. Joshua parked, killed the engine, and sat for a beat, heart thundering. This was it, no turning back. The door opened before he knocked, Kenneth silhouetted in the frame, wearing faded jeans and a thermal that hugged his chest. "Hey, you." He pulled Joshua inside, the door shutting with a decisive click, and they were kissing again, hungry now, coats shedding to the floor in a heap. The living room was an artist's haven. Canvases leaned against walls, half-finished abstracts of cityscapes and stormy seas, the air scented with turpentine and pine from a tree in the corner. They tumbled onto the couch, hands roaming, breaths mingling in gasps. Kenneth's fingers threaded through Joshua's hair, tugging just enough to elicit a moan. "God, I've dreamed of this," he whispered against Joshua's neck, lips trailing fire. Joshua arched into him, the weight of years melting away, replaced by the solid reality of Kenneth's body, the press of muscle and heat. It was messy, fervent, shirts discarded, belts unbuckled in a frenzy, but laced with tenderness, pauses for eye contact. For "Are you okay? And I need you." When they finally made it to the bedroom, the quilt rumpled under them. It felt like coming alive. Joshua traced the tattoos on Kenneth's arms, the ink stories of loss and resilience, and Kenneth mapped Joshua's scars, the faint one on his rib from a football tackle, the invisible ones from hiding. They moved together, slow then urgent, whispers turning to cries that echoed off the walls, culminating in a release that left them tangled, sweat-slick and spent. After, they lay in the dark, Kenneth's head on Joshua's chest, fingers idly stroking his side. "Stay," Kenneth murmured, voice thick with sleep. "Just for tonight." Joshua pressed a kiss to his curls. "I will." But as the clock ticked past midnight, the weight of home, of the shrine, the lies, crept back in, a shadow at the edge of bliss. Outside, snow began to fall again, soft and relentless, burying secrets deeper. Dawn crept in gray and unforgiving, filtering through the blinds of Kenneth's bedroom like a reluctant confessor. Joshua stirred first, the unfamiliar creak of floorboards under his weight a reminder that this wasn't a hotel room in Chelsea, but a stolen night in the heart of the town that had nearly broken him. Kenneth slept on, face slack in repose, lashes fanning dark against his cheeks, one arm slung possessively across Joshua's waist. For a moment, Joshua allowed himself to linger, memorizing the rise and fall of his chest, the faint scar above his eyebrow from a childhood bike crash they'd laughed about 1,000 times. But reality intruded with the buzz of his phone on the nightstand. 6 texts from his mom, escalating from "breakfast soon" to "where are you, Josh? Call me." Panic spiked, cold and sharp. He slipped from the bed, dressing in the half-light, each button a knot tightening. Kenneth murmured something incoherent, eyes fluttering open. "Leaving already?" "Parents," Joshua whispered, leaning down for a quick kiss that lingered too long. "Didn't tell them. I'll text later. Tonight." Hope threaded his voice, fragile as the icicles dripping from the eaves. Kenneth nodded, propping on an elbow, the sheet pooling at his hips. "Yeah, but Josh, be careful. Elmwood hasn't changed." His gaze held warning, laced with something deeper. Fear, maybe, or the echo of old wounds. Joshua drove home through streets still slumbering under snow, the radio murmuring weather alerts for more flurries. His parents' house loomed at the cul-de-sac's end, smoke curling from the chimney like a beckoning finger. He parked quietly, slipping in through the side door to the kitchen, where the coffee pot gurgled accusingly. Ellen was at the stove, flipping bacon, her robe belted tight against the chill. She turned, relief warring with reproach on her face. "Joshua Michael Harper, you scared me half to death. Your note said back by lunch yesterday." "Sorry, Mom." He hung his coat, avoiding her eyes, the faint stubble burn on his neck a phantom itch under her scrutiny. "Ran into an old friend. Lost track of time." Her brow furrowed, spatula pausing midair. "Friend? Anyone I know." "Kenneth Ellis." The name dropped like a stone in still water, ripples spreading. Ellen's expression flickered, surprise, then a softening, as if dredging a memory from the archives. "Kenny? Oh, that sweet boy from art class. Haven't seen him since." "Well, since you left." She plated the bacon, sliding it toward him with a slice of toast. "He was always so talented. Heard he runs the store now. Good for him." Joshua nodded, pouring coffee to hide his flush, the normalcy of the moment a balm and a blade. Tom shuffled in then, newspaper under arm, grunting a greeting before settling at the table. Breakfast unfolded in its rote pattern. Small talk about the plow trucks, the church's Christmas pageant, the way the Bengals were choking again. But under it all, Joshua felt the shrine's pull upstairs, a magnet for truths he wasn't ready to face. By noon, the house buzzed with holiday prep, Ellen enlisting him to string lights on the mantel, Tom barking orders from his recliner about extension cords. Joshua worked mechanically, mind replaying the night. Kenneth's laugh low in his ear, the way his body fit like a missing piece. A text pinged mid-ladder. Miss you already. Dinner at mine? Bring wine. Joshua grinned, thumbs flying. Red or white? And yeah, the afternoon waned into errands. Tom dragging him to the hardware store for supplies, which meant lumber for a birdhouse project. As they pulled into the lot, Joshua's stomach flipped. Of course. Kenneth's domain. Ellis Hardware. A squat brick building with hand-painted signs touting nuts, bolts, and holiday cheer. He considered feigning illness, but Tom was already out, waving him along. Inside, the store smelled of sawdust and metal, aisles crammed with bins of screws and seasonal wreaths. Kenneth was at the register, ringing up a customer, an elderly man buying twine. His smile polite but strained until he spotted Joshua. Their eyes met over the counter, a spark jumping the distance, Kenneth's hand faltering on the calculator. "Mr. Harper," he said evenly, nodding at Tom. "Haven't seen you since the summer fair. How's the truck running?" Tom clapped Kenneth on the shoulder, oblivious. "Like a dream, son. This here's my boy Josh, back from the city lights." He puffed up, as if Joshua's presence validated some paternal ledger. "Pleasure," Kenneth said, extending a hand. Joshua took it, the grip firm, thumb brushing his palm in a secret Morse code. "Soon. Heard about your play. Sounds impressive." Joshua shrugged, playing cool. "It's a living. You still sketching those birds?" Kenneth's eyes warmed. "Every chance I get." The moment stretched, charged, until Tom cleared his throat, lumbering off to browse nails. Kenneth leaned in under pretense of recommending varnish. "Red. And hurry back." The exchange buzzed in Joshua's veins as they checked out, Tom's chatter a distant hum. Back home, unloading the truck, he felt lighter, the day tilting toward possibility. But evening brought the first fracture. Dinner with his parents was pot roast and potatoes, the TV droning a Charlie Brown special. Midway through, Ellen set down her fork, folding her napkin with deliberate care. "Josh, honey, I went into your room yesterday. To dust." Her voice was gentle, but the air thickened. "The board. It's lovely, isn't it? All your achievements. I added a few things just to celebrate you." Joshua's pulse roared. "Mom, about that. I know it's your space," she rushed on, eyes bright with unshed tears. "But you're home so rarely, and with your future so bright. Law school applications, those girls you dated. I wanted to remind you of the man you're becoming. The one we raised." Tom nodded, mouth full. "Damn right. Straight shooter, like your old man." The words landed like punches, straight echoing in Joshua's skull. He pushed peas around his plate, throat closing. "It's thoughtful, really." But inside, the shrine loomed larger, a monument to erasure. He escaped upstairs after, claiming a call from Sarah. The room felt claustrophobic, the corkboard's edges curling where he'd pried it. He snapped a photo, impulsive, and texted it to Kenneth. "This is what I'm fighting." Kenneth's reply was swift. "Come over. Now, we'll burn it." Joshua waited for the dishes to clatter, then slipped out the back, keys in hand. Oak Street welcomed him like an old flame, Kenneth's door opening to pull him into heat and haste. They didn't make it past the entryway. Jackets flung, mouths crashing, hands urgent with the day's pent-up storm. "Tell me," Kenneth gasped between kisses, backing him against the wall. "Everything." Over takeout Thai on the coffee table. Pad see ew steaming in paper cartons. Joshua spilled it. The shrine's grotesque detail, his mom's quiet crusade, the lies that had calcified into family lore. Kenneth listened, chopsticks poised, anger flickering in his jaw. "That's not love, Josh. That's control." He set the food aside, pulling Joshua close on the rug by the tree. "You deserve more." "We do." They made love again, slower this time, bodies attuned to the rhythm of revelation. Afterward, wrapped in a blanket, Kenneth sketched idly on a napkin. a rough outline of Joshua's face, eyes fierce and free. "What if we told them?" he murmured. "Together." Joshua's heart stuttered. "Them? My parents? They'd disown me. The town. Fuck the town." Kenneth's voice was steel wrapped in velvet. "I've lived half a life here, hiding sketches under the counter because that's not manly. But with you, I feel whole." He cupped Joshua's cheek, thumb tracing his lip. "We could leave. After Christmas. Start fresh. Somewhere they can't touch us." The vision bloomed. A loft in Brooklyn, canvases on easels, scripts scattered on the floor. Joshua kissed him, deep and affirming. Maybe. God, maybe. But dawn brought doubt, and with it, betrayal's first whisper. Joshua's phone lit up at 4 a.m. Not his mom, but Emily Carter, the prom ghost. "Heard you're back. Coffee? Need to talk. Urgent." Emily, who'd moved to Cleveland, married an accountant, popped out 2 kids. What could be urgent now? He met her at the diner at 8, pre-Kenneth, nursing black coffee as she slid in opposite, face drawn under perfect makeup. "Josh, listen. I ran into your mom at the grocery. She was gushing about your shrine. Said you seemed off." Emily leaned in, voice low. "And then she asked about me, the girlfriend. I played along, but she showed me photos. Fake ones, right? From back then." Joshua's blood iced. "What did you say?" "Nothing. But Josh, she's digging. Mentioned Kenneth, too. Said you two were thick as thieves again." Emily's eyes softened, hand on his. "I covered for you, told her you're exploring options in the city. But if you're, with him, I'm gay, Em." The words outed him to the booth, casual as ordering pie. She blinked, then smiled, genuine. "I figured. Always did." She squeezed his hand. "Just watch your back. Small towns eat secrets." Joshua left unsettled, the warning coiling in his gut. He texted Kenneth, "Emily knows. Thinks mom suspects." Kenneth's reply, "Then we face it. Dinner tomorrow. My parents too?" Neutral ground. The idea terrified and thrilled. Kenneth's folks, divorced, liberal for Elmwood. His mom a librarian who'd slipped him Giovanni's room in high school. Dinner there could be a bridge. But home brought the storm. Ellen waited in the living room, album open on her lap, photos from his youth, the shrine's blueprints. "Sit, Josh. We need to talk." The album lay open like an autopsy on the coffee table. Yellowed pages splayed to reveal Joshua at 10, gap-toothed grin in Little League uniform. At 16, awkward embraces, arm around a football. At 22, photoshopped beside a blonde from stock images. Ellen's hands trembled as she closed it, her eyes, faded blue, so like his own, pleading. "I just want what's best for you, honey. This life you've built in New York is not you, not the boy I raised." Joshua perched on the armchair's edge, the room's warmth cloying, the tree's lights mocking with their cheer. Tom hovered in the doorway, arms crossed, face a mask of discomfort. "Your mother's right, son. We've given you everything: church, school, values. And now this, acting nonsense? Girls ghosting you? It's the city twisting good folks." The words stung, but it was Ellen's quiet desperation that gutted him. "Mom, it's not the city. It's me. All of it." He drew a breath, the air thick as tar. "The photos, the stories, their lies. To keep you happy. To fit here." She recoiled, hand to her chest. "Lies? But the shrine, your future, isn't mine." Joshua stood, pacing to the window, snowflakes pressing against the pane like curious spectators. "I'm gay, Mom. Have been since high school. The girls, the law dreams, fabrications. And Kenneth, he's not just a friend." Silence crashed down, heavier than the blizzard's hush. Tom's face purpled, a vein throbbing at his temple. "The hell you say? That pansy artist? Ellen, tell me he's joking." But Ellen just stared, tears carving tracks down her cheeks, the lupus pallor making her ghostly. "Joshua, why? We loved you. Unconditionally." "Did you?" The question slipped out sharp, years of resentment surfacing. Or did you love the version that threw spirals and dated cheerleaders? The one who could pastor's daughter marry and pop out grandkids? He laughed, bitter. I hid because I had to. For you. Tom exploded then, chair scraping back. Bullshit. This is sin, boy, against God, against nature. We've got neighbors, the church. Pastor Mike's known you since diapers. He jabbed a finger. You think you can waltz in here, parade your filth, and will nod along? Pack your bags. You're no son of mine. Tom! Ellen's cry was a whip crack, frail hand shooting out. Don't. He's our blood. She rose, unsteady, reaching for Joshua. We can fix this. Counseling, prayer, there's groups. Ex-gay ministries. I've read about them. The offer landed like a slap. Ex-gay, a relic from Hellfire pamphlets. Joshua backed away, nausea rising. I'm not broken, Mom. And I won't change. His phone buzzed. Kenneth. Everything okay? A lifeline in the maelstrom. I need air. He grabbed his coat, bolting into the night, the door slamming like finality. Snow stung his face as he ran to the truck, engine roaring to life, tires spinning before catching traction. Oak Street blurred through tears, Kenneth's bungalow a beacon. He pounded on the door, chest heaving, and Kenneth yanked it open, concern etching his features. Josh? What happened? Inside, Joshua collapsed against him, the story pouring out in sobs. The confrontation, Tom's rage, Ellen's desperate plea. Kenneth held him through it, rocking on the couch, murmurs of it's okay. I've got you a counterpoint to the unraveling. They'll come around, Kenneth said finally, though doubt shadowed his eyes. Or they won't. But you're not alone. They clung together, the fire crackling in the hearth, casting golden flickers over their skin. Desire stirred, born of fragility, and they sought solace in each other. Kisses turning fervent, bodies entwining on the rug like roots seeking soil. It was desperate, healing. Kenneth's hands mapping every curve, every scar, whispering beautiful, mine until Joshua believed it. Climax came in waves, leaving them breathless, entwined, the world outside forgotten. Morning brought fragile peace. Kenneth's mom, Lydia, called as they sipped coffee. Dinner tonight? Neutral, I promise. Bring your boy. Joshua hesitated, but Kenneth's steady gaze won. Let's try. The Ellis home was a craftsman on the town's edge, bookshelves groaning with paperbacks, the scent of rosemary from a simmering stew. Lydia greeted them with hugs, her silver-streaked hair in a loose bun, eyes kind behind glasses. Kenneth's dad was absent. Divorce papers finalized last spring. But his sister, Mia, arrived with pie, her toddler in tow, oblivious to the tension. Dinner was tentative. Small talk about weather, Mia's nursing job in Columbus. But as plates cleared, Lydia leaned forward, folding her napkin. Joshua, Kenny told us a bit. About you too. Her smile was soft, no judgment. Takes guts, coming back here. Loving who you love. Joshua's throat bobbed, gratitude swelling. Thank you. My folks, they didn't take it well. Mia's hand covered his. They'll grieve their dream, then see the real you. Or not. But family isn't blood. It's choice. The toddler babbled, offering a wooden block, and laughter broke the ice. Tentative but real. They left fortified, hands linked in the truck cab, snowplows rumbling past. But betrayal waited at home. A voicemail from Tom. Pastor Mike knows. Church meeting tomorrow. Fix this or don't come back. Joshua's blood ran cold. The leak? Emily? A neighbor spotting his truck? Panic clawed, but Kenneth squeezed his hand. We face it together. The next day dawned brittle, church bells tolling like summons. Joshua dressed sharp, button down, slacks, steel in his spine. Kenneth met him there, coat over his Henley, a quiet I love you sealing their pact. The fellowship hall buzzed. Folding chairs in rows, faces from his youth twisted in curiosity or disdain. Pastor Mike, silver-haired and avuncular, stood at the podium, Bible open. Brothers and sisters, we've gathered for a family matter. Joshua Harper, our own, has strayed. Murmurs rippled. Tom sat front row, jaw set. Ellen beside him, handkerchief clutched. Joshua rose, voice steady. Pastor, folks, I'm gay. Always have been. And Kenneth? He's the best part of me. Gasps echoed, but he pressed on. I hid it to spare you discomfort, but no more. Love isn't sin, it's salvation. Kenneth stood then, hand in Joshua's. We're building a life. If Elmwood can't hold that, we'll find our place. Chaos erupted. Shouts of repent. Sobs from Ellen, Tom's thunderous silence. But voices rose in support. Mia in the back, Lydia nodding fierce. A young couple, transplants from the city, clapped slow. Then others joined, a fracture line splitting the room. They fled amid the din, snow whipping as they reached the truck. That was insane, Joshua gasped, adrenaline surging. Kenneth grinned, wild. But we did it. He kissed him fierce over the console, the engine idling warm. Betrayal's source revealed itself that night. Tom's confession over a terse call. I saw your truck at Ellis's. Hoped it was nothing. The wound gaped, paternal trust shattered. But in Kenneth's arms, Joshua found grace. We'll heal, Kenneth whispered, as they packed a bag for Columbus, a night's refuge at Mia's. Christmas Eve dawned. The town hushed under fresh powder. They drove to the Mill Woods, the beam with their initials snow-dusted but enduring. Standing there, hands clasped, Joshua felt the past loosen its grip. Merry Christmas, Kenny. Merry Christmas, love. Their kiss sealed it, under boughs heavy with white, a vow unspoken. Christmas morning broke with a deceptive serenity, sunlight glinting off the snow like scattered diamonds, turning Elmwood into a scene from a Currier and Ives print. But for Joshua, cocooned in Mia's guest room with Kenneth's arm heavy across his waist, it felt like the calm before an avalanche. The night before had ended in quiet vigil. Eggnog by the fire, Mia's toddler asleep on a pallet, Lydia reading aloud from a Christmas carol in her librarian's lilt. Scrooge's redemption had hit too close, a mirror to Joshua's own reckoning, and he'd clung to Kenneth's hand through the tears, whispering we're the ghosts now. They rose late, the house fragrant with cinnamon rolls baking, Mia humming carols as she iced them. Presents first, she declared, plopping her son on the rug amid wrapping paper chaos. Joshua exchanged glances with Kenneth, this is family, and for the first time the word didn't chafe. Gifts were simple. A sketchbook from Lydia for Kenneth, a vintage theater poster from Mia for Joshua, and from each other, promises etched on cardstock. Adventure in the city and nights under the stars. But the idyll fractured with a knock at 10 sharp. Joshua's heart seized, Mia peering through the peephole before cracking the door. Ellen stood there, bundled in her wool coat, cheeks chapped red, no Tom in tow. May I see him? Her voice was a reed, frayed. Mia stepped aside, and Ellen entered, shedding snow like burdens. Her eyes found Joshua on the couch, Kenneth's hand in his, and she faltered, clutching a small parcel wrapped in holly paper. Merry Christmas, son. The words wobbled, but she held his gaze, raw vulnerability cracking her facade. Mom! Joshua rose, torn between embrace and armor. Kenneth squeezed his fingers, go, and released him. Ellen thrust the parcel forward. Open it, please. Inside was the album, but transformed. Fake photos excised, replaced with real ones. Joshua at 5, finger-painting rainbows. At 18, backstage at the school play, grease paint smeared. A candid from last year, emailed from New York, him laughing mid-rehearsal. Tucked in the back, a note in her looping script. I was wrong. Forgive me? Love, the mom who sees you now. Tears blurred the ink. Mom, She pulled him into a hug then, fierce despite her frailty, sobs muffled in his shoulder. I called the pastor this morning, told him. Enough. Tom's coming around, slow, stubborn mule that he is. But we're trying, Josh. For you. Over her shoulder, Lydia nodded approval, Mia's eyes shining. Kenneth joined them, tentative, and Ellen extended a hand. Kenny, thank you for loving him when I couldn't. The handshake lingered, a bridge mending. Tom arrived an hour later, hat in hands, gruff as ever. Church was wrong. I was wrong. No apology outright, but the bear hug he crushed Joshua in spoke volumes. Kenneth clapped on the back with a welcome. The day unfolded in patchwork grace. Dinner at the Harpers, tables pushed together for both families. Laughter tentative but growing over ham and stories swapped. No sermons, no shrines, just presence. The trees glow forgiving. As night fell, Joshua and Kenneth stole away to the porch, breaths fogging in the cold, stars pricking the velvet sky. "It's not perfect," Joshua murmured, head on Kenneth's shoulder. "Nothing is." Kenneth kissed his temple. "But it's ours." They drove to the city the next day, bags packed with leftovers and loose ends. Joshua's flight rebooked, Kenneth's notice given at the store. New York waited, arms open. Additions for Joshua, galleries for Kenneth. A shared walk-up in Brooklyn where secrets could breathe. Back in Elmwood, the shrine came down. Photos burned in the backyard fire pit, ashes scattered like absolution. Months blurred into rhythm. Opening night for Joshua's play, Kenneth's first exhibit in Chelsea. Pride flags fluttering from their fire escape. Letters came from home. Ellen's recipes clipped with notes, Tom's tickets to a Browns game, an invitation to visit. Healing wasn't linear. Scars ached on rainy days, but love anchored them, deep as roots. One Christmas Eve, 2 years on, they returned, not as prodigals but partners. The house had changed. Rainbow ornaments on the tree, a new corkboard in Joshua's old room, pinned with theater stubs and gallery invites. Ellen hugged them tight. Tom poured eggnog with a wink. "'Bout time you boys made it official." Under the mistletoe, as carols played soft, Joshua kissed Kenneth, the world whole. In the city of dreams, they'd found home. Not in bricks or blood, but in the quiet truth of us. And in that, grace enough for any season.